got the juice, keep the show on fire. Josh brings the news straight from the source with no desire. The judge, our wise advisor, keeps us in line. Fresh from the comic shop, showcase your design. Ask Joe the comic book ninja for insights to explore. The popcorn gets to know you from straight to the core. I guess out to think, cause we make some freaks. So much more to discover, this show's a hit. Anything can happen on a comic book canon. Anything can happen on a comic book canon. Anything can happen on a comic book canon. So let's start.
Let's start the show. Indeed, it is Memorial Day weekend, kickoff to summer, but also remembering those who allow us to have these freedoms. So respect out to all of you veterans, all the veterans that are not able to share this time with us, and all of the families that have sacrificed as well. Your sacrifice does not go unnoticed, so we truly appreciate you all. We hope you all are having a safe Memorial Day weekend here in the States. If you're, I mean, the show is global. If you don't celebrate, that's fine too. Yeah. So, Joseph, how are you, buddy?
I'm pretty good. Had a really crazy busy weekend. Bunch of claim sales. It was my first weekend back to doing actual claim sales after many weeks of tons of comic book conventions. And we're going to talk a lot about that tonight as we get into the state of the comic book market.
That's right. I'm a little distracted because I don't have our background branding going on here, but that's okay, right, Joe?
I forgive you. We're just going to dock something from your pay as kind of a little, reprimand.
What is it, 0.08% these days? I can't even remember. I mean,
I think you have the decimal in the wrong spot.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, how about this? Why don't screw this? You know what? It's not that important right now. We're live on the TikToks as well, but they can't see the full show experience like you all here. The number one show of all time live ever. So just remember that, everybody. We're going to get right into it with the featured episode issue this week. Joe, we didn't get to talk about what this is. This is episode 225, which again blows my mind that we made it this far. What would you think? Just take a guess. I'm giving you 3 guesses. And while you do that, I'm opening up a beer.
You give me 3 guesses to an issue 225?
Yeah, you'll probably get it on the first guess.
The thing that comes to mind is actually I sold one of these this week. It's an Iron Man 225.
I knew you would get it. I knew you would get it. That's right. It is Iron Man 225 in this landmark issue. Tony Stark uncovers a terrifying truth. His stolen technology has been weaponized and distributed to armored villains around the globe. Fueled by betrayal, he sets out to neutralize every unauthorized user of his designs, launching what becomes known as the Armor Wars. This story arc not only reshapes Iron Man's moral compass, but redefines him as a hero, willing to stand against friends and foe alike to protect what he created. Sounds kind of familiar from what we see in the MCU. Is that correct, Joseph?
Yeah. This is kind of some stuff that we were teased on, some Armor Wars, and this book particularly shot up in value.
Sure did. That was during the pandemic, I do believe, though.
It was definitely during the comic boom time that the words Armor Wars were thrown around a little bit as far as the MCU is concerned. But this book has come way back down. In fact, I sell near mint copies of this book for $10. And most of the other issues in this run are kind of just, $1 to $3 filler issues. So definitely very affordable if you're looking at some, great Bob Layton art on Iron Man from the 1980s.
Yeah, I was just about to say it. Bob Layton is, his work, he is one of the most, he is top 3 Iron Man artists of all time. Bob Layton.
He's number 1, in my opinion, on Iron Man.
He's unbelievable. And just to go over these bullet points here, one of Iron Man's most famous and influential storylines, written by David Michelinie and Bob Layton, by the way, art by Mark T. Bright and Bob Layton as well. This cover is straight up Bob Layton. Sorry, I just burped. I hope you'll forgive me on that.
I do, but I don't think the audience will.
Okay, the audience, that's up to you guys. Let us know if you accept my apology for my burp. Again, I'm drinking beer. So that said, all right, we're gonna move on to this. This is a nice Memorial Day weekend episode here with this special report you've been working on for about 6 months, Joseph. Real quick, tell us what the audience will be looking forward to.
Yeah, so I just kind of want to share some of my insight that I've gained. This is kind of my like third full year of selling comic books. Not that I do it full time or anything like that. It's just a little fun thing I do on the side. But I did my first convention at the end of 2021. I did a couple of flea markets leading up to that and was doing some Instagram sales. I did my first con at the end of 2021. So 2022, 2023, 2024, and now we're into 2025. This is my fourth year that we're going through right now. And yeah, it's really given me a lot of insight on what people are buying at certain times. And I notice it's changed every year, especially because think about what the market was like in 2022. Pretty much January 2022 was kind of height of the comic market. And that's when it started, tipping downward, December 2021 and January 2022. And we've, seen a downward trend since then, but I'm noticing some things that we'll get into in a little bit that were kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm very excited about your report. Again, we will be doing that. It's actually incorporated into the news, but also it's kind of an Ask Joe. So,
yeah, let's call it more of an Ask Joe thing because I want some audience participation. I would love for people to ask specific questions about, things that they're wondering about the state of the comic book market. And obviously anyone can weigh in on stuff that they may have noticed.
For sure. And before we get into the news, actually, I have a question. How quickly have we fired a canon member we brought onto the team? I mean, Naomi, 2 sips in and he's already stumbling his words. I mean, we have picked her off the show before, but that's when she wasn't part of the team. So everybody, I don't know. Let us know if you want us to fire her. It's a possibility. I mean, we have to go through HR. Is that the procedures we do now, Joe?
Yeah, which I think I'm HR, right?
I thought I had 25% responsibility of HR. You're 74.6 and AI is the rest.
Oh yeah, okay. AI is in Allen Iverson?
No. Artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. We'll get into it later. We'll figure this out. But Naomi does have a nice pick of the week, actually, and it is. You got a little sneak peek, a little image of what she was doing in the thumbnail. Anyways, why don't we just get into it? We're going to do this thing that we do every week with this Adam Schefter of the Canon. You know what it is.
Just delivers the news and rumors.
Wow. That was really, I'm so distracted right now because I'm doing the, that was embarrassing. Maybe I am, maybe I do have a problem here. Anyways, yeah, Josh, you're doing the news and the rumors.
Jeff, we might have to talk about your behavior on tonight's episode afterwards with HR because you're doing a lot of slippage. I guess we could call it.
I don't have the proper background, although that is really nice. I don't know if you guys see this right here.
Hey, why can't we go there? Is the comic book canon vacation getaway?
Yeah, that's the land that we own. We're thinking about building our compound there. Isn't that right, Joe?
Yeah, we bought this property using our income for 2023 and Q1 and Q2 of 2024 for comic book canon. The original plan was, yes, a compound. Right. Then we decided to go with amusement park, but we couldn't get the zoning regulations for that, mainly for insurance reasons. So now we're kind of going back to compound. So if anyone's interested in a comic book canon themed cult, we will be taking applications within the next couple of months. So
yeah, it's going to be very exciting. Obviously, we'll avoid any sort of, you won't be cut off from your family unless we say so. You won't be giving us all of your income unless we say so. We'll make sure the living arrangements are absolutely up to standards. And Joe and I absolutely do not believe in multiple wives. So we will not. This is not in Utah. So
no, but one thing we can't promise, there won't be any weird sex stuff.
Hey, so Josh, what is your first news piece of the week?
Let's have some positive news. Well, kind of starting off sad because there's no weird sex stuff, but going back into the news, Mike Coulter and Finn Jones, who are Iron Fist and Luke Cage from the Defenders and their own seasons on Netflix, are currently in New York right now. Just saying things could be happening. We'll have to see. We do know that Jessica Jones is on location. We got a few set photos of her already. I haven't heard anything, but hey, I think the group is going to get back together. And I just, season 2 can't come quick enough next year. I can't wait to see this unfold.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, actually, because I did want to post those pictures that you sent over. I think you took them, being the Adam Schefter of the canon. On set with Kristen Ritter, a.k.a. Jessica Jones, right next to Daredevil in that black costume. So it's very exciting. And the fact that they're reporting that Mike Coulter and Finn Jones are in town, I would love for it. I don't care what Dan thinks, and I understand it's not the real Defenders. But it was a great concept, a great group. It wasn't as great as I expected it to be. And I know, Joe, you have some words, living up to the standards of the Daredevil series, but it was still quite enjoyable. And it was a time where things were, again, really ramping up for the MCU. So I know it wasn't officially part of the MCU, but it was still the Netflix universe there. And I thought they did very well. Joseph, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for this. Like I said, 3 out of these 4 really were, great bang up jobs as far as the portrayal and the series and stuff like that. And then this like team series that they had as well. Obviously the squeaky wheel here was Iron Fist, as a lot of people, will agree with me on. That being said, the Defenders show was still good. Like it was weighed down a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, overall it was good. Sure, it wasn't on the level of Daredevil or the Punisher show, but those were amazing. And I think Jessica Jones was the strong third just behind Punisher there. Really, really love that show. So if this happens, awesome. Let's give it a second chance.
Wait. So you're saying Jessica Jones, Punisher was better than Jessica Jones, you're saying?
I think by a hair. Yeah. They're very close. They're both really, really good.
I can't remember how many seasons Jessica Jones was, but that first season was incredible.
Ew, wasn't
Purple
it?
Man, it was incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean David Tennant killed it. Killed it. I'm not a huge fan of his. Not that I don't like him. It's more that I just haven't seen him in a lot of stuff because I'm not a Doctor Who guy. But man, that was good.
Speaking of David, it's funny. He just announced that he auditioned for the role of Reed Richards.
I saw that. And that would have been
That's
super
a good cat, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how we never fan cast that.
That absolutely. That was a missed opportunity right there. Because everybody focused on what's his face from The Office. You know who I'm talking about. Anyways, we're gonna move on to the story. What do you got, Joshua?
Yeah, so we're gonna move on to some Spider-Man A Brand New Day news. Supposedly, Scorpion, Boomerang, and Tombstone will be featured as villains, according to a shizzle reel shown at Disney Blockbuster Consumer Products panel, which is kind of closed behind the doors. It was a little bit leaked out. Now, I've heard that just because they show this doesn't mean it's going to be the actual, final product of the film. It's more of a investment thing. They're trying to get investors into the company. They're trying to show people what they're doing with their money, obviously, for the investors. So take that as you will. We'll have to see. But, I mean, it's been rumored now that, originally Scorpion was in a few drafts of the script. Tombstone is going to be in there at some point. We'll have to see. Will Spider-Man Brand New Day repeat kind of what Spider-Man 3 from the Tobey Maguire show did and bring in multiple villains into play? I think that's the case. We also have a rumored female lead villain as well, an older villain. So, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens with a Brand New Day. They're supposedly going to start filming in August, from what I heard. So, expect casting and announcements probably in the next month or two.
Joseph.
Yeah, couple things about this. One, glad we're finally getting this Scorpion payoff, or at least seems like we're going to, because he's kind of been dropped that, hinted at along the way. Matt Gargan, who is the character, the character that becomes the Scorpion, was in 2 previous films. Boomerang's an interesting one here. This is kind of out of left field, but that doesn't mean it's going to be, too campy or anything like that. Could be cool. I think the Tombstone is a massively underrated character. I've said this for a long time. That book that's on the screen right now, Web of Spider-Man 34, 36, something like that. That is his
38,
first,
I want to say.
38. Yeah, whatever. Somewhere in the 30s. That's his first appearance. That book, you can get a nice copy of that book, like a really high grade one for, $20, maybe even less. I sell like VF copies for like $10. That being said, he'd be really cool, especially if we're getting Mr. Negative, like I've kind of been thinking that we're going to, because those two butt heads a lot. They're both organized criminals and stuff like that, and similarly to Kingpin and stuff like that. The organized crimes guys, sometimes they team up, but sometimes they butt heads. Could be interesting to have a little bit of Tombstone on Mr. Negative violence there.
Yeah, you and I have both been big on having Tombstone in the MCU, and in a way he was. I mean, Scorpion and Tombstone were in some MCU adjacent series with the new Spider-Man animated show, which was fantastic, by the way. If y'all haven't seen it, you absolutely should. Boomerang, I could care less. Like, honestly, I know recently within the past few years he was Peter Parker's roommate, which I didn't read that run, but I don't really even care at all. But those two right there would be a lot of fun.
Sure.
And as you said, Mr. Negative would be freaking amazing. And people have had experience in terms of mainstream media with the Spider-Man game. I think the PlayStation game with Mr. Negative. So
yes, he's big in the game, which I think would be a great idea to pull people in who have played the game but might not be, comic book readers and stuff like that. Might entice them to dive a little bit more into that character and into this property.
For sure. And I just want to acknowledge something. Lexi, I you don't need to take the beer away. I'm not too gassy. It's just getting the first beer down, maybe. I don't know. So again, I'll apologize for my burping. And I hope the audience actually accepts that. So
now I just want to say too, it would be nice to get these villains so that way you can see the different robes that Spider-Man has. Just like how you wish Batman would have some colorful robes come into play, because Spider-Man's got a great group of robes, and I would love to see the newer versions or the newer modern ones get some screen time as well. So
that's a good call, because again, Joe and I completely agree with him. Spider-Man was too cosmic in the MCU. His origins, in a way, it was too involved in too many big things, like in terms of the MCU. Being that street level hero that he really is. These rogues are phenomenal. I mean, they're right up there with Batman's rogues. I know, Josh, you give the edge to one other, and I guess in a way I have to as well to give to Batman. But Spider-Man's rogues are freaking amazing, and Tombstone being more of again, it was like 30 years ago when he was introduced, but still, that's relatively new compared to Green Goblin and some of his other classic rogues. So very exciting all around. So
actually, out of all of these, is Boomerang the oldest? No, I guess
he could be, actually.
No, Scorpion was before Boomerang. Scorpion was like, they both came out in the mid 60s. I think Scorpion came out first, but
isn't Scorpion within like the first 10 issues?
20 of ASM. Boomerang didn't appear in Spider-Man first. He was in Tales of Suspense or Tales to Astonish first. I forget. But I think Josh made a good point though. Mix in these lesser known, like Scorpion, a pretty prominent one, I wouldn't call him like an A tier, but like certainly a B+ tier villain. Tombstone, lesser known. Boomerang, even far lesser known than both of those. I think it's good to have a mix here.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. We're getting some love here in the TikToks as well. We're on the YouTubes right now. We were trying to get our full show on the TikToks. Hopefully next week we will. But the TikToks is right here.
The TikToks.
Yeah, I call it the TikToks. Big deal.
The YouTube, the Instagrams.
Yeah, no, honestly, let's move on to the next story. And Joshua, I love what you did here. This actually was probably unintentional, but it makes you look brilliant. From one Boomerang to another. Let's go.
So, my only known Boomerang is from the DCU. I didn't know about Boomerang until I actually saw the news about the shizzle reel for Spider-Man. So, Jay Courtney hopes to return as Boomerang in the DCU. he said that he talked to James Gunn, and James Gunn told him, hey, just because you die doesn't mean it happened. It's set in stone. Suicide Squad is, we're going to see what happens in Peacemaker, but it looks like obviously it was maybe a different universe. And you know what? I would love to see him come back, give Wally West a, solo film, have him play as Boomerang as a rogue. I think it's set. I'd like to see it.
Joe, go.
Yeah, keep in mind, anything that's happened thus far is not part of this universe, this DC universe, other than Creature Commandos. Even season 1 of Peacemaker is said to not be part of this new DC universe canon. So yes, any character that died previously or whatever could make a comeback, could make a return. James Gunn, worked on Suicide Squad himself and season 1 of Peacemaker. I don't see it as impossible or unlikely for him to bring more of those characters back than we already know are coming back.
There were a few highlights in that first Suicide Squad film. He was one of them, I have to say. He was really good. He was really fun and really kind of, I wouldn't mind seeing him back in some capacity. But it's a slow news week when we're talking about this. That's, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I have to say about that. But he was very good. He's a great actor. And I did appreciate his performance in that horrible Suicide Squad film. That's all I'll say. So let's move on to some more news that we're not sick of hearing at all. No, not at all. Right, Joshua?
No, you know what? We're going to keep this on a positive note so far. And I said it last week. By tomorrow, we'll probably hear something, if not midweek. But the script should be turned in for Batman 2. Well, it looks like Batman 2 is gearing up and will officially start filming in London in early 2026. I think that is a interesting location due to the fact that I think they mostly shot in Chicago, if I'm not mistaken, for the new Batman.
London.
Did they?
Yeah.
The whole thing? Oh, okay. Well, then it looks like they're going to go back. I would imagine they probably are going to use, they got sets. I think DC has a studio over there, but yeah, hopefully, next week when we come back on to canon, we'll have the more positive news as the script is in. And like I said, if we're going to start probably shooting early 2026, I'm hearing rumors that starting around July-ish, probably end up getting some casting announcements. I think San Diego Comic-Con is in July.
Yes, it is.
So maybe we'll get an official, announcement Batman poster with some casting. We'll have to see. But I really need this movie in my life. I'm a Batman fan. Probably the top second best Batman film. I still think Dark Knight Rises is right up there. It's really hard. Like, I think they're both.
Dark Knight Rises. Do you mean Dark Knight?
My bad. Dark Knight. Oh, okay. Thank God.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think the Dark Knight and Batman.
Strawberries are packed with fiber.
I think they're both like neck and neck, and like on any given day, you can give one the edge. So, but yeah, after the Penguin, we need more of this Batman universe. So, let's hope it happens.
Joe, I know you got a lot to say. By the way, Lexi's bouncing around between TikTok and YouTube. I have no idea. I'm muting myself to give her props because we have 2 million people there. But 13 million here. Anyways, go ahead, Joseph.
Lexi's just one of those people that can just teleport.
Around.
She can just bounce around. She can just
Bamf
here and there. Bamf. She can bamf it up. I have one thing to say about this. I watched the Batman last night. That's all I need to say. I watched it last night.
Okay, so I'm going to expand upon what you just said, just to give everybody context. This is Joe's favorite Batman film, like
by far.
But like, it doesn't even compare. And I got to agree with Josh that The Dark Knight is better than this film.
Well, I didn't say technically better. Like they're neck and neck, man. For me, anyways, a Batman fan.
And let's be clear here too, everybody. Like Naomi, you need to be in the news meetings that we have twice a week. 11 a.m. We serve cronuts. But yeah, Naomi, this is not saying. I mean, it's greenlit. Everybody's waiting for something to happen, but shit keeps happening, and this is not confirmed. This is not saying the script is done and they're going to start shooting early 2026. So let's all pump the brakes because this keeps going back and forth. Josh, what you said about San Diego Comic-Con, it would be a great time to announce firm plans of what's happening and casting news. I wouldn't expect anything more than that, but that would make a lot of people happy, including Joseph.
Yes, very much so.
Crow's nuts. No, the crow nuts is a big phase back in the day where it was a croissant and a donut, and it was so overhyped. Anyway,
this isn't pastry canon. Let's move on.
Oh, good point. We should start something like that. Go ahead, Joshua. What's next?
Yeah, so now we get to a bit sad news. Probably the biggest news I think this week. The next two Avenger films have been delayed, only pushed back about 6 months from the original date. So Doomsday will now release on December 18th. Interesting to note that the third Dune film will also release the same day. So I'm thinking, I don't think we're going to get Doomsday pushed back. I think Dune's going to move because those two going head to head at the box office, I don't think it's good for either one. Because Dune made over like 800 million. I think it made 200 or 300 million the first weekend. So yeah, we'll see about that. And then Secret Wars will now release on December 17th of 2027. Again, only pretty much a 6-month delay for each film pushed back. Originally to come out in May. From my understanding, they pushed it back because they're still working on the script a little bit. It's not all the way complete, and it's kind of like what they did with Endgame. From my understanding, is they were shooting stuff with the script, and then they were thinking of new ideas on the fly, and they were trying things, and they want to make these next two Avenger films, the best films they possibly can. And with the Russo brothers at the helm, I have complete faith, and I'm not disappointed, honestly. I'm glad because they're trying to make it the best movies possible. And I think Marvel needs that right now. They haven't had a good track record. They finally got on board with Thunderbolts, but we'll see what happens with Fantastic Four. So, yeah.
Joe.
Yeah, like we've spoken about, the movies have been lackluster. There's been some good ones. There's been some not good ones. It's overall been worse quality than prior to the pandemic and everything like that. That being said, I think that Thunderbolts was a banger. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. 6 months delay on these two movies is not that big of a deal. I'm not concerned. I don't think it's going to throw off the flow or anything like that. We've been inundated with Marvel stuff. It's okay to have some downtime in between movies and things like that. I think we need it a little bit. We need a little bit of a breather. So yeah, I'm stoked about this. I mean, I don't care if it comes out in July or December, as long as it comes out in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, again, we're working towards this. I like what Mark said here, but let me read it first. It is what kind of a blank check dysfunctional production starts shooting without a full script? If they want to do the best possible, they'd spend more time with the script first. Let me remind you of a small film called Iron Man that actually started the MCU, where they didn't have a full script written. They were writing that script as they went, and it was still successful. It can happen. Productions do this from time to time.
Many big movies have done this too over time. So,
and with this, a lot of things are in flux with Marvel Universe as well. Like the MCU, we've said this. This has never been done before the MCU, locking up all these major stars with these stories that all intertwine. It's so important for them to get that right, as opposed to having something just drop the ball and just not all of a sudden being canon or anything like that. So things may be evolving within the walls of the MCU that have changed plans for other things. I mean, when Kang was supposed to be the next Avengers, obviously that went to shit for another completely uncontrollable reason. But it's just keep that in mind, because again, you can still be successful moving into these productions and not having a locked script. So that's all I want to say.
I also want to say too that now that it's pushed back to December, why Spider-Man Brand New Day is still supposed to release in July, it'll be one whole year in between that we get a full movie release in theaters for the MCU. I want to say that knowing that Spider-Man is supposed to start shooting in August and wrap up in November, December, don't be surprised if they push that back a little bit too, because they're going to want some time. I would imagine, special shots and effects and everything added in there. So we might be seeing that push back a little bit too. If not, we could see a whole year go by before we actually get another Marvel in the films or in theaters.
I love Mark Lineker's follow-up question. Do you want to produce like that? I personally would not like to produce like that. However, if Kevin Feige is cool with that and he brings me on board, I'd be like, hell yeah. Because that'll give you more time to spitball, ideate, and get things in place to make it the best possible film. So I've never worked on a production that has resources like that, though. So let's just state that. All right, we're gonna move on to the next story here, which man, I was shocked. Well,
yeah. Earlier this afternoon, it was announced that Peter David, creator of Spider-Man 2099, legendary writer of The Incredible Hulk, he also did a run on Supergirl, he did X Factor, and a bunch of other great series. Sadly, he passed away at the age of 68 last night. And man, I never personally met him. I don't know if you two ever got a chance to meet him at a convention, but it still kind of hits hard because even though you may never physically have met the person, you kind of feel close to them because they put so much into these stories that they tell, like the creators, whether you're a writer, an artist, it doesn't matter. He put so much in to telling great stories for the characters that we love and enjoy today, that it really hits hard. And sad day in the community, and thoughts go out to his family and friends, and his work will live on. That Incredible Hulk run is maybe one of the best series ever written in comics. So yeah,
I don't know, Joe, if you have any words. I definitely do.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with his work, think the McFarlane era Hulk, because Hulk 340, that's a Peter David story. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, he's a co-creator, and I think he might have written that entire run of Spider-Man 2099, which was like what 40 some issues.
He's known to stay on series for a long time.
He was on Hulk for a while. In fact, I actually have it's almost like a mini omnibus that I got in a collection a couple months ago. I might still have it. That's all of Peter David's Hulk stuff.
Oh no, there's over 5 different volumes that are almost 600-700 pages long. I mean, he wrote.
I was talking about his like original Hulk run, but he is obviously he's been in the game for forever. This is his story. Unfortunately, it has quite a bit of a sad ending, as far as not only was he young and had health issues, but he was having problems paying for his health needs, and this was a very prime example of these creators that made an unfathomable amount of money for Marvel, not making money themselves. Unfortunately, there wasn't these retirement benefits. There wasn't stuff in place that would really protect a lot of these creators, and it's really hurt a lot of them in the long run. Fortunately, there are there are charities and things like that you can donate to, and Peter David was definitely the recipient of a lot of that. Due to his severe health issues and things like that. But always remember, go tip them if they're doing free signatures, or buy some signatures. Commission some art pieces, or buy some pages, whatever it may be. They're not always treated the best by specifically the big companies, Marvel and DC, where they don't necessarily own the properties, the intellectual properties that they're creating.
That's fact. And I always this hits hard for me today, too, because Josh, I didn't know. I wasn't on social media that much today, and Josh left a message in our chat, just like I added the Peter David news. I'm like, because I knew he was going through some health issues, and I asked, but I already knew what it was, and it just freaking sucks, because I say it all the time how like John Byrne is like the writer of my youth or the artist of my youth. Like he was the first time I realized that artists had different looks to them as they drew.
Yeah.
Peter David, I'm realizing, was the writer of my youth. And I'm telling you, no issue has affected me more than this one, Hulk 388, where he tackles the AIDS
AIDS epidemic.
Yeah, it just, this issue blew me away. It's really important in my collection. That's why I have it framed. And like being just a kid reading this, I'm like, I didn't know. I was just shocked that they would bring a topic like this to talk about in a comic book,
right?
A character but that led me to, realize that comic books are more than just superheroes punching each other. You know what I mean? And this book helped me realize that. I haven't talked about this, but the series, the first time I worked with Stan Lee, the same series, I actually did an interview with Peter David, and he was at a convention. He was very cool, but he was also very like short in terms of his answers and things like that. But I was so appreciative of being able to be next to him because of this issue right here. It means a lot. And as Dan says, it's these artists and writers affected our lives. So yeah, rest in peace. Like, you will be missed, but your work will absolutely live on. I know for me, I will always talk about this book. So yeah, I don't know how to segue out of this, but I don't know. Joe, you have better use of language than I do.
I do. I don't know about that. I mean, there's not much to say. It's unfortunate. Another reminder that you never know what life's going to throw at you, and life's too short. So make the best of it and hug the people around you.
Yeah. Okay, that's well said. Now we did promise that we were going to have a market report this episode, right? And so it's kind of like a hybrid here. Josh, maybe we're not going to lose you now because it's still kind of the news, but it's also like it's also kind of
Ask Joe, ask Joe, and Jeff.
I mean, kind of, right? It's kind of like that, right? And look at that noggin right there. Look at that beautiful shaved head. Like, just gorgeous, right? So this is the state of the comic book market, according to Joe, and what he's seen at a variety of conventions and selling things through his Instagram sales, etc., throughout the year, which we're almost, this is the 5th month. We're almost through the 5th month here. So, Joe, you got a lot to say, I'm sure. So why don't you just kick it off? And if people have questions, this is part of the Ask Joe and Jeff and Dan and Josh and Naomi segment. Let's do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, I have done, I think it was 7 conventions this year so far. Pretty much, I think they all fell in March, April, and May. They're very tightly packed usually in the spring. As we know, the big ones, New York, and the big ones on the East Coast, New York and Baltimore, are towards the end of the year. Then we go into the holiday season, and there's really nothing, between Halloween and the New Year. And then everyone comes out of their hibernation in the spring, and there's cons all over the place. So I sold at about 7 of them. They were all very different in size, in attendance, in some of them were strictly comic books. There was only comic books, nothing but comic books. You didn't see a Funko Pop in sight. Maybe you had an artist or two or something like that, but that's it. And then some of them were more pop culture oriented. There were people selling, toys, and people selling movie posters and art and things like that. And there was everything in between. And a lot of people always ask, what's selling right now? Well, I will tell you, the number one thing that I was asked for, the number one question that I got at every show, at least one person, usually multiple people, came up and said, Joe, do you have Invincible? That is the hot comic book run right now, and you really got to search for it, because a lot of that Invincible stuff, especially the early issues, came out in a time that comic books were not very popular. Early 2000s print runs were low for Marvel, for DC, for Indie, and Image Comics here was no different. You can actually look up the solicitation and print runs of a lot of the early 2000s Image books, including early Walking Dead, early Invincible, and a lot of that stuff is really, really low. So this stuff's hard to find. You're not going to find it at every vendor. There's not going to be a section for it usually because they're not going to be enough really to fill in the section. And it's just so popular right now with the show. And I bet, I wasn't a comic book vendor, 10 or 12 years ago or whatever, when Walking Dead was coming out 10, 15 years ago. But I bet it was like this 10 or 15 years ago when Walking Dead was a big show, especially for those first few seasons. I think that's probably what it was like. And this is just kind of the new wave of that. Now, will it die down? Probably, but man, that show's still going strong. It might take a while. Walking Dead has certainly died down from the peaks that it was at, but that doesn't mean that, Invincible is going to die off by next year or anything like that. That show is still going strong. Well, are there 3 seasons now?
I think.
Yeah, they just finished season 3, I think, and they're gonna. I don't know how far they are, like in the comic storyline as to adapting. So I don't know how many more seasons, but I'm pretty sure it's coming out with another season.
Yeah, I would assume so. It's so popular.
There's always the possibility of a live action film too. When was the last season that we had? I've seen the first season, which was really good. I just haven't had time to watch the second or the third.
I want to say I want to say Amazon did it in 2 halves. They dropped season 3 like half the episodes of season 1 month, and they waited. I want to say it was last year, like late last year.
I think it was late 2024. They dropped the second half, but either way, it very clearly is still going strong, and it was a lot of people. It wasn't just seasoned comic book collectors. There were a lot of people. I would say teens and young adults that were asking, which was really cool to see because obviously good to keep people, getting into the hobby. Another question that I got a ton of was this one: slabs versus raws. Are people buying slabs? No one's buying slabs. Everyone's buying slabs. Let me tell you how it went. 2020, 2021 happened. Slabs went through the roof. And what it was new collectors getting in. Some of them thinking they needed slabs. They needed graded books. And B, newer collectors that aren't as experienced with figuring out what a grade is themselves wanted to assure a grade. So they bought a slab copy rather than a raw copy in order to make sure that they were getting, a good deal. That caused the slab prices to go up more significantly than raw books. So prior to the comic book boom of 2020, 2021, there was not a huge difference. There was obviously a difference in slab. Slab's always going to be a little bit more, but there wasn't a huge difference between slabbed and raw. That disparity widened significantly when the pandemic happened. A flood of new people coming in. Grading companies were backed up for a while. Remember those like almost year-long waits with CGC, all that stuff. That caused a bigger disparity in the price of raw to graded, and that since has come back down. That since has evened out a little bit more, and we're now seeing that they're a lot closer. Obviously, especially for really high grade stuff, the graded copies that are stamped with that approval from one of the grading companies, they're going to be more. But that gap has closed, and now that gap has closed a little bit more, I'm seeing more people picking up slabs again.
Interesting.
Prior, comic boom, slabs were firing off like hotcakes. That has come down in the last couple of years as people have pulled back a little bit from that. Maybe there were collectors that were newer and they kind of got more accustomed to figuring out grades themselves, and they were happier buying raw copies and getting them graded. Maybe it's because the disparity in prices were so, was such a large gap there, and it people were waiting for it to close. But I think now we are at a time where slabs and raw books are priced appropriately compared to each other. Yeah. And people are more comfortable with that. So it's really the convenience of, do I want to buy it already slabbed, or do I want to try to get it a little bit cheaper, send it in and get it graded myself and see what I can do? And some people are going to be slabs all day. Some people are going to be never slabs, and some people are going to be in between. There's all those different types of collectors, which is one of the beautiful things about this hobby. Everyone does it differently. I
want to throw this question out before we move on. Like, you guys, I'm not one to go hunting for slabs, but if I find one, I'll get one. Like, so that puts me in the middle.
Yeah.
I've known you guys for years. I don't know where you both. I know where Dan stands. EGS all the way or nothing. I know that. Yeah. I'm not. He's in the back. There he is. The judge. I don't judge. You're in right now. But I don't know where you and Josh stand.
Yeah. So for my personal collection, it doesn't matter if I buy it graded or not graded. Now, a lot of the stuff that I do buy is Golden Age stuff, and it's going to already be graded.
Yeah.
Especially in the conditions that I'm looking for, the specific books that I'm looking for. Most of them do come graded. Now, if I find it in the collection and get lucky, it's one thing. I buy raws all the time that I plan on getting graded. So it doesn't matter to me which way I get it, as long as I make sure I'm getting it a great way, for a solid deal, an appropriate price. But a lot of the books that I'm after, most of the copies out there are graded, so I'm just going to probably buy it graded.
That makes sense. Joshua, I know you're probably like me, in the middle, I would say.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. So, I'm going to give you an instance. Last night, I purchased a 9.8 of a book that I know I have 3 copies of already that I think could possibly get the 9.8. Now, here's the thing. I only go after keys that are, either first appearances or a big significance in characters that I like to collect and enjoy. This one book, I'll leave it as a surprise. But yeah, you're probably thinking, well, hey, man, you already said you got 3 new mint copies. According to my eye, I think it is. Now, if you send it into grading, who knows how that's going to flip. And my thing is kind of like, more modern books that I want first appearances. If I can find a 9.8 graded copy, already slabbed up, looking great, and if the price is actually good, which currently right now, I feel like, in my opinion, some DC keys are undervalued, I'll grab them up all day long. I have no problem with that. So yeah, I don't like. Tomorrow, my local comic book shop will have a sale going on along with a flea market. I'm not going to go out of my way to look for slabs, but if I go to a Comic-Con or somewhere and there's slabs and I find something I know I want and the price is really great, no problem. If not, I don't mind picking up the raw copy and eventually sending it to get graded. So yeah, I fall in the middle, kind of like with Jeff, but I kind of lean maybe a little bit more towards grading, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Dan De La Torre, real quick, the judge. You have any quick words on that? I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay, I don't want to get boxed into a corner, Mr. Jeff. I've got 35 short boxes, and about a quarter of my collection are slabs. Just because there's an EGS slab right here. But I also like the raw copy because I can read it, I can open it. I'm old school. You get to feel it, see even the little stupid advertisements they have in some of those things. So it doesn't matter to me. I appreciate them both. But one thing I do try to do, if I get a slab copy, I try to get a reader's copy that's low grade for the same reason so I could read it.
No, that's fair. Okay. All right. Just wanted to bring you in on that. We're going to see you a little bit later. All right. So before we move on, be sure to like and subscribe to the #1 show in all of the world. Like you don't like and subscribe every week, but we have to say that. Otherwise, the board members really get upset that if we don't. And it's really irritating. Don't tell them we said so. They can't. They're probably not watching, right, Joe?
I don't know.
Moving on.
Yeah. So moving on. One thing happened here in the middle of con season, and that was the whole, greater economy having a little bit of a shift. We, for those of you who don't follow basically early April, it was announced that there were going to be some pretty widespread tariffs, unprecedented tariffs that were going to be implemented on a lot of our major trade partners. I'm not here to comment on this economically or politically, but basically that announcement happened. The market took a pretty significant dip. I wouldn't necessarily call it a crash, but a significant dip over the next week or two, and has since mostly rebounded in most areas of the economy. That being said, anytime there's economic movement, it affects people's disposable income. It just affects their mindset and stuff like that. I will say this. I think I sold a lot more in March than I did in April.
Interesting.
I think that's what it was. I think in March, everyone was feeling good, about the economic growth that we've had. We've been on 2024 was a phenomenal year as far as the greater market. Inflation has been coming down. Prices of things that have had some pretty high, price hikes in recent years. Price of gas had come down a little bit, over the last year. That whole mess with eggs and the avian flu seemed to be kind of getting over with, and eggs were back down to a normal price. And people were buying all through March. I was selling lots of big books, lots of quantity and stuff like that. It definitely slowed down a little bit in April because I was doing shows. I was bringing similar inventory to those shows. I even did some pretty heavy discounts at some of the shows, 20% off at some of them and 50% off at the last two of the year. But people were not readily buying as much, especially the bigger stuff. I noticed that's where people were pulling back. The smaller stuff was still selling great, but the bigger stuff, I think people were just a little bit more cautious, which totally makes sense given that, especially if you're someone who watches the market or watches your investments, your 401k, whatever it may be, and you saw that big dip at the beginning of April, I can totally understand why that would, scare some people.
I got a question. And you said in March was selling the big books.
Yeah.
Now I've had some people say that usually when tax returns come in between February and March, people sometimes take their tax return money and they go to town and buy books. I mean, do you think that plays a part at all in any of that, or do you think it was just the market?
Definitely, and that's why the cons, most of the cons for the year are scheduled for March and April, because people are getting their taxes back, like you said, February, March. Some people wait till April, that's when taxes are due. So it makes sense for them to be there. It could be, maybe people got their tax money back and spent it all in March. I really think that there's significant evidence here that the tariffs kind of shook people a little bit and maybe they pulled back on their spending. But, there's other factors as well. There's always other factors. It's never one thing or, another.
That's for certain. There's a bunch of different ingredients that get us to there, but that was an interesting perspective that you had there, and it's nice. It's interesting to hear that from you, because that's something we don't normally discuss that, but just seeing a month by month comparison.
Sure.
And again, there's a whole bunch of factors that you really can't pinpoint either way.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on to your next observation, sir. What would it be?
Yeah. So the next thing I noticed, and this was widespread between all 3 months that I was, doing conventions this year. And that's that people were picking up stacks on stacks on stacks of issues to fill in runs. This is something that I every once in a while you get someone who's a run filler. They're people that are completionists. If you ever watched Jim from Bronzeville Comics on YouTube, great YouTube channel, a close friend of mine, Bronzeville Comics, go check him out. That man is a completionist. When I say he has almost every DC comic from the 70s on, I am not kidding you. It's absolutely insane. the runs that this man has. In fact, he's so far behind on reading that he recently finished Blackest Night, which came out in 2009.
Yeah.
And we joke about this all the time, that he's reading
First
comics.
of all, that's a great
2010.
series. Second
Yeah.
of all, wow, 16 years ago? Jeez, he's 16 years behind.
Yeah, in his reading. But it's okay. He's going to have some free time soon to get through it. But anyway, point of this is a lot of people working on filling in runs. I noticed that I got a couple of Bronze Age collections in the last couple of months, and they were complete or near complete runs of stuff. And most of that stuff's gone. People going in, grabbing those, $5, $10 filler issues, whatever. The more recent stuff, more dollar bin to $3 stuff. That's most of that is just gone. People are filling in runs, which is awesome to see, because completionists and stuff like that, they're more likely they're reading the stories and getting into the books, and I love seeing that.
That's for sure. Again, it's those that really, that's like icing on the cake with a lot of things. Actually, it's probably more meat on the bone in terms of some of your sales. You know what I mean? Because of there's way more of those fillers than there are those premium issues. Isn't that right?
Yeah. There's most comic books that exist today are dollar bin books.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That is the truth. Most of the ones that exist today are dollar bin books. There are a lot that are, in that $3 to $50 range, Minor Keys, Silver Age stuff, whatever. There's not a lot that's like the big stuff, the big wall books. Percentage wise, it's a very, very small amount.
But I love that those issues are desirable. You know what I mean? And
yep.
That's
and that's why
what you were saying.
I always try to have a good mix of things. I try to have the keys and the popular covers and things like that. But I also try to have the filler issues, especially for popular runs. Batman, Uncanny X-Men, Claremont, and Amazing Spider-Man. Those are the runs where the filler issues sell.
That's really good to hear. All right, you have one more point here.
Yeah, then we're
going
going
to
to
get to some of these questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it, Joe.
So this was particularly at a couple of the shows that were more online comic community centric, specifically the Elite Comic Expo, which Jeff, you attended with me. Mm-hmm. I had a table there, as well as King Con, which Josh, he was at. And Jeff, you weren't at King Con this year, right?
I was there.
Oh, you were. No, you weren't
there.
Yeah. Okay, so we all three were there.
Thank you for remembering. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Golden Age, specifically Golden Age Romance, was definitely selling. And maybe it's because I had a lot of it, because I got a collection that had a ton of it at one point. But the most expensive book that I sold during the entirety of con season is this book on the screen right here, Secrets of True Love, #1. It's a Matt Baker cover. It was a single issue of this run. There was never an issue 2. It is a very scarce book. I think there's 14 on the census, if I remember correctly. I had a raw copy. If I remember correctly, I had it priced at $2,000, and I think I took $1,800 for it. Someone made a cash offer and bought it from me. That was at the Elite Comic Expo. So that was my big sale, my single book that sold for the most amount of money, and also kind of a surprise, because it's not a superhero book. It's not even a pre-code horror book. It is Golden Age romance.
That's fascinating. But I was there. Where was it? Actually, I had a conversation with John, aka Heroes Reborn, and he was talking about the same thing here. Not specifically about this book, but in terms of the whole genre. But I feel like we did see a lot of that at Elite Comics Expo too. A lot of people asking for those types of books. So I
sold more Golden Age at the Elite Expo than I sold at every other show I did this year combined. I think that's just the crowd. That's King Con was probably the second most, and it wasn't nearly as much as I sold at Elite.
I feel like because I was helping a little bit with the booth there, and every time you put one of those books up, people were asking for it. I was taking it down and giving it showing it off a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's really fascinating to hear. And these are really, really cool trends that you really don't get anywhere else. I mean, the most popular show ever on YouTube, Joe, you brought some valuable information.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been interesting, and I wish I had a way to quantify it. I love what Swaggelhoss does. Shout out Mickey if you're still here with his actual quantification of the market, the index of the comic book market. This was more of just kind of a more qualitative account here, just my own personal experience, and hope that you found it informational. I do want to answer some of these questions though.
Yeah, let's get into it. We're going to change the slide here to that beautiful noggin right there.
Yeah. So this one really has to do, I'm going to do this one first because this one really has to do with what we're talking about. From Derek, do you see macro trends about types of books being bought and sold? For example, 2023 was big silver bronze, 2024 seemed to be PCH. What's 2025? So I'll tell you this. While they are still selling, especially certain artists, modern variant covers have gone down in popularity. That was a massive, huge thing a couple years ago. You couldn't hold on to them. Now you have people coming around. They're asking for Peach Momoko, and they're asking for Adam Hughes and Alex Ross and other popular artists, but you're not seeing it nearly as ridiculous as far as how fast they're selling and things like that. Certainly as far as things that are getting more and more popular, I've like I said, I've noticed Golden Age over the past couple of years get more popular, and I think that's just people get into this hobby. What almost always happens when you first get into the hobby of collecting comic books, you collect what was coming out when you were a kid. So for me, a lot of the stuff that I was buying was like 90s X-Men stuff, foil covers and things like that. People a little bit older than me, they're probably buying that Copper Age stuff from the 80s, that Secret Wars and things like that. People a little bit older than that, it might be, looking for the Bronze Age stuff. You typically get into what was cool, what was coming out when you were a kid, and you expand from there. So I think that a lot of people have expanded back, and usually some people just stop at the Silver Age and they only collect Silver Age and up. Those people that want to go back farther, go back into, learn a little bit more about the history of the medium of comic books, they're going to dive into the Golden Age stuff. And that's what we're seeing now. A lot of the people that have gotten into comics in the last 5 or 10 years that have stuck around and have expanded back are grabbing Golden Age stuff now.
Again, and that relates to what your last piece of information, point of your last topic on your observation right there. That's a great question, Derek. And again, it fluctuates. Everything changes. That's the only thing that's constant is that everything changes. So who knows what it'll be in 2026. Joe, we're going to get into the next question here. Let's do Kaboom real quick.
Yeah, I think Kaboom here is referencing specifically San Diego Comic-Con.
He definitely is because he lives close.
That's where he's out.
Yeah.
I have no plans to go out there this year. I've got a couple other trips. I'm flying down next month to Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm also going up for the weekend at Terrificon to Connecticut. Those are both weekend-long trips. And then I'll probably do at least one day of New York Comic-Con. So I will probably be skipping San Diego. I've actually never made it to San Diego Comic-Con. It's definitely a bucket list item. I think I'll probably go once and I'll have my fill of it. But it's probably not going to be this year.
Unless it's for work, I have no need to ever go to a Comic-Con again or a San Diego Comic-Con. It drives me crazy. It absolutely drives me crazy. You compare an Elite Comics Expo to San Diego Comic-Con, there's really no comparison. I love what I do. I'm blessed to be there and privileged to be doing what I do. But as a fan, I have no desire to go. So I will be in San Diego late October, though. Hopefully we can connect. Josh,
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same room with Joe here. I'd probably do San Diego and New York Comic Con as a one-time only thing, bucket list, just to experience them. But I'm more of a, Baltimore Comic Con, Terrificon, King Kong kind of guy, Pacifically Comics. That's just my taste. However, I do not plan on going out this year, but I think in 2027, Star Wars Celebration will be over in San Diego, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I would love to attend that. So maybe in a couple years.
Speaking of fun fact, we should have mentioned this during the news. Today is the 48th anniversary of A New Hope hitting theaters.
Oh, that's right, because it wasn't May the 4th be with you.
It wasn't May 4th. No, it was May 25th. Was the actual release.
Actually, I think I don't know if it's today or yesterday, but it was the anniversary of Solo, the Han Solo movie coming out in theaters as well.
I liked Solo, but it's really not remembered well, to be honest.
I like that movie.
I like it too, but it's very divisive.
Look,
Solo
I was
very divisive.
I was saying, look, I don't need somebody to replace Harrison Ford, and I don't need to see his origin. But you know what? I actually enjoyed the movie, and I thought the actor did great. And I kind of like to see a sequel, man. They teased Darth Maul at the end of the movie, like live action.
All right,
like,
chill
come
down.
on, bro.
All right, we're gonna get to a live question from the judge himself. Judge, welcome. What do we got?
Joe, I've got two questions for you. They're quick questions.
Okay.
One is, since I've been alive, I've seen the .com boom and bust. I've seen the housing boom and bust, and now we've seen the comic boom and bust, and then it sort of resurged. A lot of money and people came in during those years, 2020 through 22. I'm assuming most of those people are out of the market for the most part. So the first question is, what is the fallout of all that, since that's come and gone? Because you're in the market and I'm not. And speaking of the market, James Gunn has his DC coming out, right, starting with Superman. Do you see Superman spec books from DC? Or are people kind of burnt out by the whole spec thing?
So let's go back to the first question, is the aftermath of the comic boom. One thing that we've already noticed that we're going to see more and more of over time is people having collections that are a vast majority modern covers, modern variants, modern con exclusives and store exclusive books that are not worthless, but worth a whole lot less than the people think they are. Con exclusives typically sell for $20, $30, $40, $50. Store exclusives, $10, $20, $30. A lot of those books, if they're a cool cover, $5 or $10. A lot of that stuff is not worth nearly as much. And the stuff that's not a well-known popular artist or a really great cover or a minor key or a popular title or something, they're dollar bin books. There are going to be collections that I'm going to come across, if I keep doing this, or whoever buys comic book collections, 20 years from now, someone's going to be like, oh, I've got this great comic collection. They're all, mint copies. They're all in bags and boards. I've been keeping them for years. And someone's going to go over thinking they hit the jackpot, and they're going to open up a box of Do You Poo. And
That's
that is unfortunately what came out of this. That was the thing that the market just became so saturated with, those books, variants and exclusives. And I get it. There's a place for it. And they've certainly helped keep the comic book, the industry alive, because, more sales is keeping those publishers afloat and distributors afloat and stores afloat. But at the same time, man, some of that stuff is it's very quickly, worth a lot less. I have a friend who kind of got into comics around the time that I started selling at the end of 2021. And he unfortunately got into buying a lot of variant covers, and he actually sold most of his collection to me a couple years ago. And I gave him the price that I was going to pay for it. And he was like, man, I gave him a nice friend price, and I think it was $750.
That was
And
a frenzied time, though. I mean, like, when
yeah,
those
and he
variants
was like,
were coming
"Oh
out.
man, I've spent thousands of dollars on this stuff," and I was like, "Dude, I understand like what this stuff was going for
Yeah.
6 months to a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever. It's just not anymore."
So is that transferring to DC though regarding spec?
Well, no, I was that was just the
Those are
first
two
part of the
different.
question.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
he's
the
specifically talking about like
Yeah.
store variants and things like that.
Right,
That
right.
they were hot shit during the
yeah,
pandemic.
the
no doubt.
second part, as far as DC spec, people are buying those books. It's not fluctuating the prices of the books like stuff was fluctuating during the comic boom, just because there's not as many people buying. But books are selling. Spec books are selling. Josh comes in my claim sale. I know whenever there's a spec, I put a spec book up because Josh is claiming it right away. I know if Josh is buying a comic book from me that's not like a major Batman key or something like that, I know there's been like some rumor or speculation about a character or something like that.
I literally did it this weekend too for a few bucks.
Yeah. You mentioned Superman specifically. The thing about Superman is that most of the good books are ridiculously expensive books already.
Yeah.
And the ones that aren't are so massively printed. Superman was the best-selling title for a very, very long time. And even when it wasn't the best-selling title, it was one of the top best-selling titles.
Right.
So a lot of those books, even, Bronze Age and Copper Age Superman books and stuff like that, even going back to the Silver Age, there's just so many of them. First appearance of Parasite is an example. You can get a mid-grade copy of that book for like 50 to 80 bucks. It's not a very expensive book.
I literally bought a 4.5 off of you for like 60 bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 3 months ago. It's
right.
insane.
That's it hasn't. There's a lot of it out there. And the demand is not outweighing that supply so that there's some sort of like a big spike on the book. Sure, I'm sure prices are fluctuating a little bit, but not majorly.
We'll see what happens again when Superman does come out, and it'll be interesting. That's for sure.
It's kind of like Fantastic Four. I don't know about you, Joe, but in my opinion, like Paul had Brickso Comics had a sale yesterday he was doing, and he had a lot of Silver Age early Fantastic Four he was blowing out for cheap. And there were some big keys, and he had a lot of people, and nobody, it seems like almost, unless it's FF1 or Galactus or Doom, nobody's really buying any FF keys right now. So I kind of feel like you said it was an earlier buyer's market the last half of last year going into this year, and now I think everybody's kind of dying down a little bit and waiting to see what happens, with everything else going on in the world before they start dropping more money.
True, and it's also a cycle we've seen in the past that Derek says perfectly. Like, plus most people understand the movie spec cycle now. They are more cognizant of FOMO and how prices will decrease, which leads to less people buying, which leads to less price fluctuation. Such a good point, Derek, because again, with these back in the day with the films, if you had, let's just say the movie with Apocalypse, X-Men. What was it? X-Men Apocalypse? That was hot shit for a hot second, and then the movie came out, which was garbage. But even if it wasn't garbage, it went down. It went down, drastically. So it's a very good point. People avoid those, especially villains. By the way, they're starting to get smart on all of that. Dan, great questions. Judge, we will see you later. We have one more from our good friend Nuke. Ask Joe and crew, what's the best app platform to track my collection and its market value? I think we all have differing opinions here, but Joe, let's go with you first.
I've personally heard that CLZ is the best way to track a collection. I would not trust any app with the value of your comics. I think that CLZ is probably closest, but I've never had someone send me their CLZ and it be anywhere close to what I think their collection is actually worth at market price. Even worse, Hip Comics do not bother using that.
I don't know anything about that one.
I had someone come to me and they're like, "Oh, I put my collection in Hip Comics. It's worth $30,000." I think I offered them $500 or $700 on their collection.
Wow.
The prices were so astronomically high, and they were like, "Oh, I can't take that. I have to get at least like half of what it's worth." And the person came back to me a couple months later and sold me their collection for what I offered.
They wanted 15 grand, huh?
Yeah, and I think the number was 700 that I offered, and they came back a couple months later and were like, "You're the best offer."
What was it? I mean, was it like non-keys, or was it just low grade stuff? Or
No, it was just that the prices were just astronomically high on there. I don't know how they pull their data. I don't really know. Like, I know Cover Price uses like eBay sold listings, at least that they try to. But I think CLZ is Cover Price. They kind of track it through Cover Price. But I mean, I don't think there's a really good accurate way to tell the value of your collection. Personally, for me, raw books, eBay sold listings. And graded books GPA is going to be pretty accurate. You look at 90-day average is typically what you want to look at. That way it kind of gives you the average of what it sold for over the last 3 months.
Joshua, I mean, I have my go-to, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah, I'm ashamed to say that my system on how I keep track of my books is right up in here, and I just throw them in the back over
Can
here.
you show us a closer look of what that is? Show us again.
Yeah.
No. Right up in here. Where is that?
Right up in here, my brain, my temple. So
noggin.
my brain is like the size of that. You know what I mean? So it's hard to keep the knowledge in there and keep track. But I kind of agree with what Joe said. If you really want to get into it, those are the places to check out. As far as value, like I don't worry about the value of my collection. Maybe one day I should if I want to pass it along. But I'm just enjoying collecting and picking up the stuff that I love. So now if you're picking up collections and, eventually going to sell, yeah, you want to know the value. But I know if you want to see current, sold listings, obviously eBay, like Joe said, GPA, I think you said for slabs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I really just, like I said, I mean, I'll check out a few of those here and there, but as far as keeping track of everything, I just try to keep it all in my memory. And I've looked over these books so many times on Key Collector to find the keys I want, but I pretty much know when I'm going through bins, whether it be dollar bins or bargain bins, whatever. I know when I pull something out, look at the cover, I'm like, hey, I know that's something, I pull it out. So, yeah.
All right. That's all fair. Like, again, I've never heard of HIP. Key Collector's not, I know you don't use it as kind of an inventory list. Key Collector isn't that really. I love Cover Price. I do love Cover Price. And I understand that the prices are a little, they could be here and there, but I just love the tool that it has of tracking your collection. Also a ton of articles, a ton of like just seeing where things are going to be in the market. I really do appreciate Cover Price. So, and it's like $8.99 a month, I think, or something like that. So absolutely kind of a valuable tool right there. It says in the private chat, Joe, it says Joshua has a question.
Josh, throw it to me quick.
Yeah, so we all know that when we go to Comic Cons, some sellers still sell in 2020, 2021 prices because they paid so much for a collection or a certain amount of books and they want to make their money back. And obviously, we're now in 2025, about 3 years after. Do you think those sellers will eventually just say, hey, you know what is what it is, and come down and actually adjust the prices, or will they hang on to those books and keep trying to get, 5 times over fair market value that it's currently at now?
Yeah, I mean, everyone has their own business model. Personally, I like to sell things at at what they're going for the current time so that they move fast. Other people like to squeeze as much money out of what they have as possible, so they have it high, whether that's high because of, the market being higher previously, or they think it's going to go up in price. Some of those people do reprice in order to sell or reprice lower, and other people are stubborn and don't, and they're going to lose out on sales because of it. I mean, that's everyone's going to run their business differently. Go to the collector or go to the sellers and dealers and stores that are fair with their pricing. Some are even negotiable, and stick with them. I mean, that's the best advice that I can give. I don't know what other people are going to do with their businesses, but you can't make anyone sell it for less than they want.
It's worth whatever it is to them, and that's their prerogative. But, they're going to start seeing a trend in no sales, and you're going to have to adapt pretty quickly. All right, we're going to move on then, I guess, from this segment that we kind of call, it was a hybrid segment today. It was quite interesting.
Ask Joe, Joe. Ask Joe,
and Jeff. That's us right here. Ask Joe and Jeff. All right, we're going to keep moving here with the show. We have two segments, two video roll-ins, as we call it in the industry, that we're going to have to get to. First one, you know what? We don't really have much of a run of show in terms of sticking to it because we kind of did this new thing, the market report. So I'm going to leave it to Joshua. Do you want the Naomi's pick of the week first, or do you want the Did You Know?
Did you know?
Wow, that's going to hurt Naomi's feelings.
Did you know Crisis on Infinite Earths was DC's giant continuity cleanup with a body count? It's been over 40 years since Crisis on Infinite Earths debuted, and it wasn't just a major crossover. It was DC's bold attempt to fix 50 years of increasingly tangled continuity. By the early 1980s, DC had a serious identity crisis. Literally. Dozens of alternate Earths, conflicting backstories, duplicate versions of heroes. Readers were confused, and even the editors were struggling to keep it all straight. That's when writer Marv Wolfman pitched a radical solution. A single, universe-shaking event that would destroy the multiverse and streamline everything into one clean timeline. Wolfman later revealed that the idea was sparked by a fan letter pointing out contradictions in DC lore. That letter lit the fuse. From there, he and artist George Perez went to work. To keep track of the multiverse, the team created charts and maps of every parallel Earth and its heroes. This was long before spreadsheets or digital databases. It was all done by hand, an editorial whiteboard full of decades worth of worlds, characters, and chaos. The result was Crisis on Infinite Earths, a massive 12-issue epic that obliterated entire universes and killed off icons like Supergirl and Barry Allen. It was DC's attempt to make sense of its own history, by ending most of it. So, the next time you get lost in multiversal madness, just remember, it all started with a fan letter, some hand-drawn maps, and a plan to destroy everything in order to save it. So what do you think? Did this crisis create a cleaner timeline, or just delay a more convoluted one? Let us know in the comments. And if you didn't know, now you do.
Look, we all know what the point of Crisis was, but the fact that it was a fan letter that kind of sparked the idea for Marv Wolfman to make it actually happen was a big deal. Now, the question remains. It did clean it up for the time being, but since then, not so much. Am I right?
You're right.
Joshua, you being the biggest DC fan on the show, talk to me.
I did not know, but now I know.
You knew that Crisis was there to clean up decades long.
Okay. I knew well, let's be honest. There's a crisis like every 3 years at DC.
Well, time out. Back in 84, that was the first one.
Okay, now we're at like number 10. But the point is, I thought it was very interesting too because they incorporated characters that they bought out, such as Peacemaker and a few other ones they brought into DC continuity. So I thought it was a very good thing because both DC and Marvel have to eventually reset because eventually it's just like the movies and shows. Things get messy, things don't work out, people don't like it. So hey, let's bring in something new and try it. And I think it worked out for the better.
Okay.
I thought honestly, like their intention was like this is gonna fix everything, but what 40 years later, it was more of a band-aid than anything else. Because comics are continuous, right? And you have Superman, or let's just say Peter Parker, every 20 years he ages what, maybe 3? So it's difficult.
And it gets rebooted.
Yeah, it's
all the time.
It's definitely difficult. But anyways,
Oh,
that was
Batman's getting rebooted this year too.
That's true, actually. You're right about that. Another number one, so which I can't stand. Anyways, speaking of reboots, no, that's not a good segue. As you know, Naomi is a full-fledged member of the canon, and her main responsibility is picking out that new comic book for you to pick up next week. And this one, I tell you what, she is on point with this one, and you're going to see why right about now.
What is coming out next week that I would be really, really stoked for? I'll give you a hint.
Huh?
I'm just a resin. This is really uncomfortable, so I'm doing it for you. Talking about Matt Murdock himself, but not just any Matt Murdock. No, I'm talking about old man Matt Murdock. This is a very much anticipated number 2, and I'm talking about Daredevil, Cold Day in Hell, numero 2. I am so excited. Like, this was insanely good. I don't know what to tell you, but other than it's old man Matt Murdock, and he's just going about his day in the world, and he's running a soup kitchen, which is really, really awesome. And then all of a sudden, like, Ish starts hitting the wall. He has to go save some people in a subway, and then people have died. If you haven't read this yet, I'm not going to give too many things away because it was just so good. So, people have died, and all of a sudden, he starts getting his powers back. He starts getting it back. Give me 1 second. That's enough of that. So, Daredevil Cold Day in Hell, number 2, is my most anticipated comic for next week. I can't wait till you guys read it. I want to hear what you guys think of it. And yeah, until then, see you later. Go back in the basement.
I got 2 things to say real quick. Phenomenal job by Naomi. She's hitting it on the mark, and that's the reason why we brought her in. Second, Joe, did you remember to feed her? Because I thought it was your day today.
I didn't feed her. Did Josh? Did you?
I wasn't told I was supposed to feed anybody. You guys are supposed to feed me.
Anyways, moving on. I'm really pissed that my comic shop it sold out Cold Day in Hell. I didn't put it on my pull list. I definitely wanted it. I thought it was one of those that I could pick up. So I don't have issue number 1, and I'm not picking up issue number 2 till I get number 1. But I'm psyched that she picked issue number 2 because number 1 was that good. I think she'll agree with that. Okay. Hey, this problem solved. She's losing weight, and she's cool with that. So we don't have to feed her today, right?
All right. I call dibs on the basement next then.
Okay, fair. All right, moving on. We're going to do the last segment of the show. By the way, thank you all for sticking with us. Time is the most precious commodity we all have. It is Memorial Day weekend. We know it's a little lighter in terms of audience. It's only 15 million instead of 38 million, 100
billion,
which it usually is. Again, we appreciate you all, but let's get into
Fresh from the comic shop, your collection's treasures ready to pop. It's time to share, don't let it flop. Fresh from the comic shop, take a shot, make it bright, give it style and flair. Show a book that's unique, something rare out there. Tell us why it matters, what's the story behind. Pull at our heartstrings and you'll surely shine.
Sponsored by Crafty Comics, where collections flex their style. Museum quality slabs and displays with 99% UV protection, because your fresh gets deserve the spotlight.
indeed. Joshua, welcome back. Here we are, fresh from the comic shop. We ask you guys to upload your fresh gets on the Instagrams. Joe, you like that? You giggle. Give me a giggle. Give me a cute giggle. That's very cute. With the hashtag FFTCS, even though hashtags are pretty much pointless, tag us in the picture, not in the comments, in the picture. We look for a well-composed shot, something very artistic, outside the box. We look for something that's unique, and we also look for something, this weighs a lot on us, by the way, that pulls at our heartstrings. Yeah, I just paid attention to the part where we're crying. The fact that we had those cameras on us when we got emotional, it was inappropriate. All right, let's move into it, guys. I actually have some fresh gets today. Joshua, I know you do, and Joe, I know you do as well. And I hope that person is still watching live.
I hope so too.
Who gave this to you, because it is phenomenal. So I was wondering when you would get this fresh get. We're gonna get into it right now with Fresh from the Comic Shop, and we're gonna start off real quick with our January winner. Just to remind you who has won January. We have Mon's Comics with the Predator. Dr. Plagueis with that Green Lantern that just washed in green light. Love it, love it, love it. Our March winner was Super Crispy. And our April winner was Nori Jordan himself with this The Boys submission right there. Let's just get right into it. We got Nukes coming in hot. Nukes Comics right here. Fresh from the comic shop, Amazing Spider-Man 345. Oh no, Cardiac. Boomerang. Guys, there have been so much Boomerang talk. I don't think we've ever had an episode talking about Boomerang. But here we are. Boomerang is on the attack. Venom is back, and some guy named Cletus. It has been a crazy week between work and family stuff. Comics have helped me stay grounded. I picked this up from DBS. Good stuff indeed. Oh, look who's joined us, by the way, everybody. Huh, is he going to apologize?
Hopefully not. Because then he'd have to apologize for apologizing.
Damn straight. Oh, here we go. Look at this.
Boomerang was a thunderbolt.
Yeah, of course. Joseph, give us your first fresh get of the week.
First fresh get of the week. Man, I have so many copies of this book. I have a habit of anytime I find appropriately priced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff, you know, kind of for a deal or whatever, I buy it and I just never sell it. So this is Raphael #1. First appearance of Casey Jones. This is the first printing of the book. One of those larger, almost magazine size TMNT books. Only issues 1, 2, 3, 4, and Raphael #1 were printed at this size. Just really cool. OG.
Yeah, very cool.
Early mid 1980s. 84 was the first Turtle book, so this was probably 85 or 86. Awesome stuff. I eventually need to whittle some of that down, so maybe I'll have some of that in I have an elite sale this week for AtCon, so maybe
You have some amazing turtles, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One of my prized possessions here is this 9.4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #4. I don't feel like taking it off the wall though right now. If you're on the TikToks, you can see it though.
Woo!
Right there.
TikTok.com.
Moving on, who do we got? Oh, we got Mark Leneker, always bringing a little nugget of some history. This weekend, or this episode is no different. Albo Dioro 317 from June 1952. In the interest of time, think of the famous Italian Albi Dioro series as Disney comic strips, plus famous funnies, plus 4-color comics, plus original and other international material, all distributed weekly. This is, of course, 4-color 386 Uncle Scrooge #1 by Duck Maestro Carl Banks, only 2 months after the U.S. debut. And all this series ran 600 plus issues from 1937 to 1940 and 1946 to 1956. Guys, I like what he did here. DuckTales is near and dear to my heart. And watching all of them jump into that freaking gold coinage, I like what he did in the background here. So,
yeah, this is awesome because it's a really big key issue.
Yeah, that too. I'm sorry,
but it's a foreign version, which just makes it so much more unique, so much more interesting here. And of course, we always get the history with Mark Leneker, and looks like a well composed shot to me.
Really? Well, I don't think that's his gold.
Could be.
I heard that Mark Lineker, he is one of those people that has gold bars like lodged in the ceiling, like just in case he's got like a one of those the
You're talking about gold toilets, right?
no, I was talking about one of those.
Hey,
What do they
Josh,
call it?
what's your first fresh get of the week?
Doomsday people. Anyway, Josh, go ahead.
Oh, so my first fresh get of this week is something I bought actually last weekend. I didn't get to show it off, but I was in North Carolina, and I got a very nice J. Scott Campbell Batman 158 Hush variant. Love this cover and what he did with the characters. And since it's a J. Scott Campbell variant, and it's Batman, I'm thinking maybe 10 years from now, I'm going to sell this to Joe for about 10 grand, give or take. He'll probably offer me 8. We'll probably meet somewhere about the 900 range. And yeah, I'll be rich.
I really think you could actually sell it. Why not just cut him a break and sell it to him for $5,000 right now?
I'll give you 6.
Oh, wow. I tell you what, I'll trade you this for your oldest 9.8 copy of Walt Disney's highest grade book.
That's fair.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
good deal. All right, you just saw a business transaction happening live on the show. Fantastic. Kaboom Comics is next. You guys know how crazy I am for Wolverine books. This was a good week hunting. Just found this awesome X-Men Legends number 9 Hulk 340 homage cover with Omega Red on the reflection on Wolverine's claws. Looks good with all my other Wolverine books. Happy hunting, comic book fam and community. Remember to check out our friends over at Comic Book Canon every Sunday. I appreciate the plug he always gives us. We truly, truly, truly appreciate you, Kaboom. And we have more reasons why.
Yeah, we'll see some more from Kaboom in a little bit.
Absolutely. All right, my fresh. I'm just going to go through my fresh. Oop, that's not me.
That's me.
I always confuse myself with you. My 3 fresh gets. I'm just going to do it real quick. I don't remember if they're fresh this week, but I got them from my local store, my local comic shop. Red Coat number 12, first appearance of the Northerner as well. No, actually first full appearance as well as first cover appearance right there. God, I'm telling you, you know how high I was on the Energon universe? I'm really high on the Unnamed universe, which includes Geiger. Geiger number 14. The Glowing Man versus the Glowing Woman. I mean, I love this series. I love this series. And I guess what's a new comic book day or a new comic book week without a little Energon love? With Transformers number 19. I thought I was pulling number 20. Number 20 has a better cover with Megatron overlooking Starscream. So very excited for those to start reading those. All right, moving on. We got Raising Elm. Howdy, comic fam. I just wanted to share one of my recent pickups, Kahori Whisperer or Reshaper of Worlds, issue number 1. Of all the stories told during Marvel's animated What If series, Kahori's story was one of my top 3 favorites, along with Marvel Zombies and Doctor Strange's story arc. I thoroughly enjoyed the way her character was written and brought to life. Several months ago, I was flipping through a preview magazine and I saw this issue was coming out with her first comic book appearance. I just had to add it to the PC. Unfortunately, the local comic shop that I frequent didn't get any copies. I was kind of bummed until I found one at another local comic shop in the neighborhood or neighboring state. Also, in addition to the growing PC, much love, comic fan. I love this book, by the way, guys. And I love that he finally got one. Hopefully, I can get Daredevil Cold Day in Hell number 1 before I get number 2. Let's move on to the Judge, actually. The Judge has a fresh get. What do you got, Your Honor?
I'm going to do what you did, Jeff. Rapid fire my 3 here.
Go for it.
X-Force 1. Everyone has one of these. Well, why I got this? It was a minor, what do you call it? A minor flaw, and it's nothing to mention. But what it came with, remember when these were hot?
Mm-hmm.
Deadpool. I finally got a Deadpool card.
There you go.
So that's one.
You probably paid like what, $300,000 for that?
I did, yeah. I've got them. You guys pay me a lot of money, so I can afford things like that. It pays to be a judge.
Your damn retainer is ridiculous.
Secondly, X-Men 37. Kind of more than a filler run. These are classic old X-Men, so didn't pay that much for it. These are great. The last one I got here, and this is pretty cool. I think this is, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
Is this the first time that Superman goes back in time and sees his parents? This is Superman number 141, a 10 center golden age, or could be a early silver age.
I'm not sure. Let me
Give me a
confirm.
second. I will look that up right now.
I'm looking
Yeah,
it
I
up
think it
here.
is, but it was too cool to pass up. Shout out to my comic shop, OPS Comics, Ocean Pacific Comics in Santa Rosa, California. Good people, very reliable, but I love having this book in my collection.
That's a really cool book.
According to Key Collector, this is the origin of Superman retold.
Yeah.
Superman returns to Krypton, and first appearance and death of Lila Laurel, a
That's his
Kryptonian
mom.
love of Superman.
Oh, he's cheated on Lois.
Oh,
Notice
Maybe
she's
not. Maybe not.
just like Lois and Lana, she is LL as well.
but is that their first meeting with his parents, other than obviously Action Comics #1? That would be cool if it is.
It doesn't say on Key Collector, but I mean, if it's the first time he goes back, maybe.
Something worth. I'll look. I'll give it some research, but certainly worth looking into. But that's what I got.
For sure. I think we
I
can
thought
find that out pretty
Krypton was
quickly.
destroyed. That's why he was at Earth, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that's the story now, but it was different back then.
All right, we're
I
gonna
may have
move
to make
on.
a ruling on this.
Well, let's do some research first, Judge. Please allow us some time. Moving on, we got a good friend of the show and someone who doesn't apologize for anybody or anything, right? Nori Jordan, right here.
Let me guess. Thunderbolts.
Kind of.
No.
I had forgotten that my birthday is this line right here. I have forgotten that my birthday. Wait, where is? I had forgotten that my birthday is approaching. But Justin from Raising Elm Comics was kind and reminded me by sending me an early birthday gift. He found Bullseye and Daredevil chess pieces from something called the Marvel Chess Collection. I'm not much of a chess player, but it is time to bring out my inner Bobby Fischer. It was a very thoughtful gift, and I'm curious what other cool chess pieces are out there. Take care, everyone. So much to unpack here. First of all, we love this community and how everybody has made connections outside of the show. It's amazing. It absolutely is amazing. I love the fact that Nori forgot his birthday was coming up, and Raising Elm had to remind him, Justin. And I love what he got here. This is really cool and unique, I have to say. So we're just throwing that out. That is our last mission for a slow week. It is a holiday weekend, but we have to show off some of your fresh gets as well. Joshua and Joe are left. Joe, why don't we do your second fresh get, and then we'll go back to you, Josh.
So this is really cool. I had never seen this before. This came in a collection I got recently. And I pulled it out because it looked interesting. And I looked into it, and it's actually really cool. So this is called I Saw It. It is by Kaiji Nakazawa. This originally was printed in Shonen Jump, which is a Japanese manga magazine that debuted pretty much every manga and anime character that you know. They started in Shonen Jump, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, all that stuff. But this is really cool because this is a firsthand account of the atomic bomb in Hiroshima. The author, Kaiji Nakazawa, was a 6-year-old child living in Hiroshima when the city was bombed and destroyed. And he lost multiple family members. He lost a couple other family members to the side effects after the fact, after the bombing, the radiation and stuff like that. And he survived himself, fortunately. He moved to Tokyo and became a manga artist and writer. And this is one of his, most important works because it was that firsthand account, a 6-year-old living, in the city as it was destroyed. And I looked him up. He's since passed away. He died, I think, in 2012. But yeah, it's just amazing that he was able to recount that history in this, comic book / manga format. And this was, basically printed it as its own standalone comic, which this came out in 1982. And I think I think 1972 was the year that it was in Shonen Jump, if I remember.
That is so. Can you show that cover again,
Yeah.
please? That is really incredible. Like it's a What does it say? A survivors. And I saw.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know what to make of this when you first pulled it up, but wow, that is freaking like honestly, man.
Right.
If you were eligible, that would be very unique, right there.
Right. Really cool.
I can't imagine what that young man saw and what he went through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was able to share it in this format, again, comics are special. It's a different type of a format. So
yeah,
that's very cool. Joshua, I'm going to ask you to show your last 2 fresh gets all at once because I have to pee and the show has to end soon. So,
no problem.
But Joe has, I hate this word, but I don't know, has a banger of a freaking.
I have a banger.
I know. He needs to end the show on that one for sure. So down in North Carolina was digging, and Capital Comics, a place I highly recommend you guys check out in Raleigh, had some dollar bins on. He had some great stuff in the dollar bins. Justice League issue number 50. This is when Jessica Cruz officially becomes a Green Lantern. A bit of an underrated key, in my opinion. I know 29 and 30 are considered the more valuable ones, but those are like small cameos. This is when she officially becomes a Green Lantern. And speaking of Crisis, Infinite Crisis issue number 3, first appearance of the new Blue Beetle, Hemaria Reyes, if I pronounce his last name right. And it's his first appearance, not in costume. Issue number 5 is when he finally suits up. But again, a dollar book and kind of an underrated book, in my opinion. George Perez did a couple of variants for Infinite Crisis, which I really loved, and he's greatly missed, and I love seeing his artwork.
Yeah,
that's a great looking cover too. And a dollar, you got that that's a key. Like so, nice pickup right there. All right, this is an amazing. Like honestly, y'all need to stay for this because. We're dwindling down to 9 million. I know people have to get ready for the barbecue.
Let's get into it.
I'm just so happy for you.
Yeah, this is super cool. This is it's certainly fresh. It's not from a comic shop, and it's not a comic book, but it's way better because it is a piece of original art by none other than our own Kaboom Comics, who has made some artwork for multiple people in this community. His art has been shown off in Fresh from the Comic Shops. Jeff, you got a piece from him. Check this out. He knows my love for Spider-Man, specifically my love for Mysterio, my favorite Spider-Man villain. And of course, I love Todd McFarlane. Who doesn't? So he put me on the cover of Amazing Spider-Man 111. And look at that. I'm in place of Spider-Man there in Mysterio's helmet. Every detail of this was so well thought out. Obviously putting me in it was really cool to begin with. But check this out. Corner box, 360, made out of the webs. Top corner box, over on this side. Look who's up there. Me hanging upside down. This detail right here, that corner box is my favorite part of this. I think this is amazing. Hold on, we're gotta get a close up. Look at that. I wish I wore that hat today because that's a hat I usually wear with the gold buckle, and it's oh man, we're still blurry.
Yeah,
but yeah, come on,
dude, that is so absolutely incredible. I never saw the colored version of this, but what's interesting is that he asked me about that corner box, about doing the upside down. I was like, he's like, do you think Joe would appreciate that? I was like, hell yeah, he would absolutely appreciate that.
That's my favorite part.
And hearing you say that it's your favorite part, it's just.
And look at the price, $3.60.
It's a thing of beauty, man. Like,
I'm looking at you side by side with the image in yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so beautifully detailed.
Oh,
it's so stunning. Good. It is stunning.
So good. So thank you, Kaboom. Hopefully you're here. If you're not, maybe you're watching on the replay. Thank you. I'll be posting this at some point on Instagram this week. There's Jeff's version.
I'm getting
Jeff getting bullseyed.
Bullseye's about to murder me, which is great. I told him I keep it up.
Might be doing some weird sex stuff as well, Jeff.
God.
Boy, that's gorgeous, Joe. That is gorgeous.
The color version is absolutely incredible. All right,
Yeah.
we're getting off track here because we do have a job to do here, and now it falls on Joe and I because there are no guests today. So here's the deal. I have two that stick out for me for sure.
All right, I have two as well. I'll kick us off. Always bringing the heat. Always bringing the most unique stuff. Mark Leneker.
Yeah, that's one of mine as well.
That's one of yours. Okay. Yeah. I mean, this is it's a Golden Age book. It's a well-known Golden Age book, but it's a foreign version. It really puts this over the top. And then
it's unique, and the presentation is outstanding.
Yeah, and it even gives info on when this specific run debuted and how many issues there were. Just so much information, so much history, and that pile of gold doubloons in the background, obviously very topical with the character.
For sure. By the way,
Kaboom is here. Look at this. Here we go. Kaboom is here. Thank you. Love it. Can't wait to. I don't know. I guess I gotta get that framed up.
Absolutely.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. And it has to be displayed.
You need to put it in the background from now on.
You need a new canon set right now. So we're all going to be
I'm kind of working on some stuff, some major changes around the house as far as layout and things like that. So it's going to take a while. It's a lot of work. But I want to move some rooms around basically.
Right.
And I likely will move my canon set to the room next door, which is a bigger room. So
outstanding. I cannot wait to build out your.
I work free for comics.
Yeah, I have to pee. So we gotta get this going, guys. The next one I have, I guess I'll just go is Raising Elm.
Yeah.
Oh, that was on your list too?
Yep.
It's just outstanding. I love the book, but I love the presentation. This character could very well be important moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in the MCU and in comic book format again. I love the fact that her first appearance was in a What If story, animated What If. But that's just about the character, not so much the whole presentation, which is fantastic. I am leaning towards one book though, Joseph.
Me too. I'm leaning towards one of them.
Judge, are you paying attention? Your Honor, are you ready for deliberations?
I try not to say anything while you guys are deliberating.
Sorry. Apologize. I have to pee real bad.
Which one are you leaning towards?
I'm leaning towards Mark Leneker.
Me too. Perfect.
Mark Leneker, you are moving on to the finals in March.
Wait a minute.
Oh, shit. Damn. I have to pee so bad. I'm trying to push things.
I'm certifying because Jeff has to pee. Case dismissed. Go pee.
Oh, congratulations, Mark Leneker. You are moving on to the finals. You are semifinals. You're going up against last week's semifinalist, and I cannot remember who it is. And then we'll be doing the finals this week as well, because this is the last show of March. The last damn show of March. Next time we'll see you is next week.
It's May, dude. It's May. It's not March.
Is Alicia laughing in the background?
No, she's sleeping, actually.
Okay.
She would be
laughing. Jeff, lay off the booze.
Okay. I do okay. Okay.
I don't know, Jeff.
He's doing the pee-pee dance now, so let's end the show.
I am doing the pee-pee dance.
Just get a bottle, man. You're standing up.
Anyways, this is the last show in May. Next time you see us will be June. And it's going to be great. It's going to be next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. I love the show. I love everything we do. I love how Naomi's integrating just fine. She's making fun of us just as much as we make fun of her. So, she's the right pick. And plus, she's bringing heat. So everybody look out for Cold Day in Hell, number 2, Naomi's pick of the week. Judge, last words for the show.
I'm happy we have Naomi on the show. We need to give her more exposure out here. I love you guys. This is a great crew, great chat. I'm honored to be on this show.
You have to popcorn it. Speaking of popcorn, we got to bring that back too.
Yes, we do.
But you have to toss it to somebody else.
I do?
Yeah.
It's my turn?
Yeah, I got to pee.
All right, let me get back to you on that one because I don't know who's gone, who hasn't gone.
No, he meant to me or Josh to say goodbye.
Oh, Papa, Josh. Okay, go, Josh.
People,
You don't
anything
leave
can
these things up to
happen.
me.
Anything can happen on comic book canon. You know, we got one guy that's shrinking. We got a judge who is so overwhelmed with his duties right now. He's not sure who to pick. And then you got two almost bald guys, you know, right on top of each other. But anyway, a great show tonight. I love you guys. Get more Fresh from the Comic Book Shops in, please. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, spread the word, and thanks for tuning in. And let's pass it up to Joe so we can get our man to pee quicker.
If you want to see some cool books this week, whether you're in the market to buy or not, check out @Con. @Con is the online on Instagram convention all week, starting, I think it's starting Wednesday till Sunday, on Elite Comics 11. My sale particularly is Thursday afternoon, Thursday from 3 to 5 Eastern time. Jeff's really got to pee, so I'm going to cut it off there and throw it back to him.
Yes, we love you all, the audience. You guys are the fuel that powers this comic book canon. Time is the most precious commodity we all have, and we appreciate the time you always spend with us. We'll be back again next week, 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Please be good to yourself, be good to others. Peace.